I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I sort of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, you gotta ask yourself one question. Do you feel lucky? Well, do ya? My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Get off my plane. And the women, they sang to one another as they made merry. Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000s. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to meet him, and the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and the ropes that were on his arms became like flax that has caught fire, and his bonds melted off his hands. Then he found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached down and took it, and with it he killed 1,000 men. And Samson said, with the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey, I have slain 1,000 men. The Philistines said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the wild animals of the field. But David said to Goliath, you come to me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defiled this very day. The Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. Woo! Yes! Let's face it, violence is kind of in our blood. Seeing it in a movie, reading it in the Bible, it can be fun. Kind of a release. And the Bible is beautiful, but it does have a lot of death in it because it's a human story too. Until you get to this Jesus, a dude surrounded by empire and power and by his own people who really want to hit those nasty uncircumcised Romans back. But Jesus, when they seize him in the garden, he tells Peter, put away your sword. When they whip him, belittle him, humiliate him, give him a piercing false crown, he says nothing. When they nail him to the tree, he says, Father, forgive them. What Jesus does isn't what instinct tells us to do. Hit me, I'm probably going to hit you back. But now let's step into the early church. As I tried to show last week, Paul was this amazing person, preaching love, love, and more love, preaching equality between the sexes, an end of definitions, human definitions like Jew or Greek, even saying that there is neither slave nor free, but he could get annoyed. Read Galatians, his argument with Peter. Ouch. But in today's story, it is a slave girl that is annoying him. She has a spirit of divination, fortune-telling, and she keeps following Paul and Silas, shouting, these men are servants of the Most High God, proclaiming a way of salvation. Translation, they are so cool. You need to listen to them. But like fans of a boy band, squealing their delight, it gets to be too much. Paul gets annoyed and says to the Spirit, come out of her. And this girl, she'd made a lot of money for her masters. And that, gone. Look at human history from recent times to ancient times. People will put up with a protest or two. They'll put up with actions from leadership that they don't really like. They'll put up with it until hits them in the pocket. Commerce is not to be interrupted. Paul and Silas, whom to this point have been allowed to do their thing, are arrested. They are beaten with rods. High sticking in hockey, throwing your bat in baseball or in cricket. Ask Paul and Silas. There is a reason why these rules exist. And so wounded, covered with welts and blood, they are placed in shackles. By the way, ever try to not touch something that hurts? To not rub that sore muscle? To not close a gash? Think about being hurt and then put in shackles. Shackles that might not even let you change the position of your body, so that you would bleed freely, and add that to the ache of bones forced into one position, to the pain and the humiliation of the wounds you've already carried into prison. That's what our heroes were experiencing. And so, of course, what do? They sing. They don't plot revenge. They don't wait for their chance to get theirs. They don't dream of the moment when they will say to the jailer, "Feeling lucky?" They sing. And when the miracle occurs with an earthquake, the release of the shackles, they stay put. They even get the others to stay put. This is not a John Wick movie. In the early church, the words "love your enemy" were taken with a seriousness we cannot comprehend. They were lived out because Jesus said them for a reason, because your enemy is family. The remarkable thing we see in Acts is the power of love, the love of Jesus, witnessed to by the early Christians, bringing those who seemed to have power over them to Christ. In weakness, in refusing to take up the ways of the world, in refusing to whack people with anything like a Jesus stick, they win people to God. Does it involve scary situations? Personal pain, frustration, anger, even death? Sometimes. But it works. And in a lot of ways, the greatest empire in history found itself taken over by it, even though no shot was ever fired. Now, as Christianity became the religion of that empire, the responsibility to protect became a Christian responsibility. So to this day, we revere those who protect us. We thank them. We thank God for them. But we also need to remember the wisdom of the early Christian movement and of a leader whom we call Son of God, who believed and demonstrated that loving your neighbor means loving your enemy. And that we might discover in that enemy a friend. Understanding that, holding on to that, can help us in our lives. It can help us understand those who would hurt us. It can help us control our own anger. It can even help us to remember if someone is mean to us or to others, there's usually a reason. They've been wounded, and deeply. And through kindness instead of retribution, we might bring them peace. Think of this jailer. He drew his sword when he realized the prisoners were free. They were his responsibility, and they were going to flee. He drew his sword to die by his own hand, and not by the hand of the empire. Now imagine hearing those voices that had been lifted up in song, shouting, "Don't do it, we're here." Imagine that witness. The impact of that love on a man who thought his life was over. Imagine that, and we can see this indeed is a love that can change the world.